When we had to choose an award for Peggy and Jerry, there was no question that the award would be the Talmud Torah Award. And it says over here in the inscription, Gadol Talmud Shemevi Lidei Maisa. Great is study, it's a quote from the Talmud, which says, great is study, for it brings good deeds. Presented to Peggy and Jerry Fensterstock in appreciation of your tremendous commitment to lifelong Torah learning and your innumerable good deeds. Chabad New Canaan Jewish Center, May 2017. Peggy and Jerry.
Thank you, Levi. Wow. Okay. Oh. This is going to take a while. He told me I had 5 minutes. I said, forget that. First of all, I want to recognize Claude and Melody. As you've heard, they have been lifelong supporters. They've been with Chabad for many, many years. It's an honor for me to share this evening with them. Because, to be honest with you, going back 10, 15 years, an evening like this, for me, had never been anticipated. I was one of those stereotypical 3 times a year Jews. I went to Hebrew school for 6 or 7 years, had my bar mitzvah, and then that was it. I was done. I was, like a lot of people, working hard, earning a living, house, family, tuition payments, mortgage payments, working 50, 60 hours a week. I didn't have time for Jewish stuff. I didn't have the inclination, actually. And then it all ended. I retired. And I remember waking up that first Monday morning, laying in bed, looking up at the ceiling and saying, okay, now what? I really had no idea what I was going to do. But somebody did. And Peggy had cut an article out of the paper about a Daf Yomi celebration. Now, for those of you not familiar with this, this is a program started about 80 years ago. And the participants read 1 page of Talmud a day. And people around the world do this, hundreds of thousands of people. And there's 2,711 pages in the Talmud, as Mike knows. And it's about a 7.5-year cycle. And a cycle was ending and a new one was starting, and there was going to be a big to-do at Madison Square Garden. And it was just, I guess, I would say it's coincidental. I'm sure Levi would say there was some other things at work here, but the new cycle was starting in a couple of days. I had taken a class in Talmud many years before and really enjoyed it, but I never did anything with it. I was too busy. But now I had the time and the inclination, and I thought, I'm going to give this a shot. But I knew, given the way of the world, that I needed somebody to poke me along. And if I did it on my own, I would have dropped out. And so I called a friend, Avi Ben David, who's over here. And Avi said, yeah, I'll be, study partner, great. But he had an even better idea. And he contacted his synagogue, First Hebrew Congregation in Peekskill. And the rabbi there, Rabbi Kupchik at the time, they've gone through 2 or 3 rabbis since then, set up a study group. And 6 of us studied Talmud together for 7.5 years. And the group is still going. And I loved it. I mean, it was an hour and a half a day, something like that. And then some period later, I see this ad in the newspaper, You Be the Judge. It's a class about applying Talmudic principles to contemporary legal issues. Now, what I've been reading, issues like my ox scores your ox, your cow falls into my pit. So this is a little different. And it was being held at the Stanford Chabad. I had never heard of a Chabad. I had no idea what this was. And so I went over there, and I met Rabbi Levi Mendelow. And you know, there's some days or weeks or people in your life who you meet or events that happen, and you really, the significance of it is nothing that you really recognize at the time. Years later, though, you realize that it was something that was kind of a major change in your life. And that person, Levi Mendelow, and that event, encountering Chabad, was a life changer for me. You know that at the end of Casablanca, there's a scene where Humphrey Bogart, I know my son loves this, Humphrey Bogart and Claude Rains are going off into the desert, and Humphrey Bogart says, "This could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship." And that's what it's been for me and Levi. He's been my mentor, my advisor, but mostly my friend. And 12 years, it's been just phenomenal. And so I took that class with the two ladies who were fighting with each other, and another class, and another class, and another class. And a funny thing happens, I start going to synagogue. At Bet Torah in Mount Kisco, Aaron Brousseau is here, the rabbi of that synagogue. Thank you for coming, Rabbi. And who also has been very encouraging. And I start going to shul every week. And with a little pressure from Rabbi Levi, putting on tefillin every day. And then I start getting involved in activities at the shul. And then after a while, God help me, I'm organizing activities. But I stay away from the political stuff, because that's death. And I start giving tzedakah in more quantities than I think is even conceivable. And I'm busy again. You know, I am now a very busy guy. And one day, Levi grabs me after class, and he says, "You still doing Daf Yomi, right?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "How long is that?" I said, "It's an hour a day." He says, "It's not enough. You need to study some more." And so he says, "Well, you know, you really ought to do Chumash with Rashi, and you really ought to do chapter Mishnah Torah, and Tanya, got to read Tanya." And so he lays out this discipline for me. Now, fortunately, there's something called Chayenu. Where's Yossi? There he is. Yossi Peltz. This is an incredible publication. It comes out every week. Mike Gordon's a subscriber now. And it is structured day by day study. It's just great, okay? He is selling subscriptions in the lobby. I have arranged for a discount, okay? I mean, we are Jews after all, so it is great. I have to tell you a little story. Last summer, or winter, I mean, Peggy and I went to Asia. And we're flying back. It's a long flight. It's like, I don't know, 20 hours, whatever it is. And I'm studying my Chayenu. And a guy taps me on the shoulder, and I look over, and it's a man dressed all in black. It's not Johnny Cash, okay? It's a Satmar Chassid. And he looks at me, and he looks at what I'm reading, and he says, "You are reading this?" And I say, "Yeah," and I do Daf Yomi, and we have a discussion. And he says, I just don't have time for Daf Yomi. I'm too busy. I said, and I can't believe these words come out of my mouth. I said, "Well, you know, you're supposed to set aside fixed times for Torah study." Yeah. So this is, you know, Levi Mendelow is coming right out of here. And I knew this at the time, if I had said, you know, that's in Tractate Shabbat, page 31a, his head would have exploded. But you know, who am I? I mean, it was such a strange thing. A conservative Jew from Westchester telling a Satmar Chassid from Muncie he's not studying enough. So life is very, very bizarre. And then 7 years ago, Levi becomes the shliach here in New Canaan. Outer Mongolia was taken, I guess. So he came to New Canaan. And he calls me aside after class, and he says, "Jerry, you got a minute?" I said, "Sure." He says, "You know, I went to rabbi school. I didn't go to business school. You think you can give me some tips?" I said, "Sure, Rabbi." So we get together a couple of days later. I said, Levi, show me your books. He says, what are books? So now I think I have a sense for the situation. And we've worked out a process. We get together every Monday morning, and first we review everything that happened over the last week, what went right, what went wrong, lessons learned that we can apply going forward. Then we lay out the week ahead, the month ahead, 3 months ahead. What are the meetings, the activities, events? What are the key to-dos and action items? And we assign responsibilities, and we document it all, write it down. 40 years at IBM, you'll learn how to do this stuff. And we know there's a secret here, that the critical stuff, Michal does. Okay? One second about the women of Chabad. I would guess people who don't know Chabad, they think, well, those women, they're second-class citizens, they're barefoot and pregnant or tied to their ovens or whatever, maybe in the hills of Sicily. These are strong, accomplished, professional women. They could hold their own anywhere. I wish I had a dozen Michal Mendelos working for me at IBM. So then after this, then we do the financials. And this is always the entertaining part of the day. We'll look at the receipts and the expenses. We'll do net cash flow. We'll do year-to-date cumulative cash flow. We'll compare this year to last year, year-to-date, last 3 years. We'll do some trending, look out to the end of the year. I haven't gotten them up to exponential smoothing yet, but you never can tell. And the thing about the financials at Chabad is there's never a point of stability. You're always at the height of ecstasy or the depths of despair. There's never any middle ground. But somehow we've kept the lights on for the last 7 years. And it's through the generosity of you folks. The community has just been phenomenal. And I know we can count on you in the years ahead. I saw a cartoon in the New Yorker several years ago. It was a woman in her garden bending over some little scraggly bush and saying, "Grow, damn it." And I think, up in Gan Eden, Hashem is looking down and saying the same kind of thing. Now, here I ought to say, Baruch Hashem. Or my mother would go, poo-poo. What do you say, boys? Attaboy. Grandkids are great. And then the last thing we do is really my favorite. We'll study a mimer of the Rebbe's. One of the regrets I have is I really came to this very late in life and didn't have the opportunity to experience the Rebbe in person or firsthand. I just can sense his presence through his writings primarily, the videos, or going to the oil. You read the writings of the Rebbe, it is amazing. The intellect, the intelligence of this man, his economy of language, the way he puts his arguments together, it's really remarkable. It's like reading Spinoza without the blasphemy, I guess I'd have to say. My favorite line of the Rebbe's is that he believes there are no hyphenated Jews. There's no Reform Jews or conservative Jews or Orthodox Jews. There's just Jews, and we have to love them all. I think that's why this man has inspired millions. And so this is the program we do every Monday morning, 2 or 3 hours. I think I'm going to get a business card which says Chabad of New Canaan, Consigliere. So I'm proud of many things. I've been very fortunate in my life. I have a phenomenal wife, terrific kids, great grandkids. I have a beautiful home, had a good career. And these are all things that Peggy and I worked very hard for. And I think we're justifiably proud of all of them. But in the last several years, something else has been a source of pride, and that is I was born a Jew. What a lucky break. I did nothing for this. I just lucked into it. I'm the recipient of 4,000 years of tradition. I'm a descendant of Abraham, and I did nothing. You know, I read a quote from the Alter Rebbe who said, just as a person rejoices and is glad when an immense fortune falls into his possession, by inheritance through no toil of his own, similarly and infinitely more so, ought we to rejoice over the inheritance which our forefathers bequeathed to us. I was given this incredible gift, and for 50 years, I wasted it. I did nothing, not for myself or my community. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that my education as a Jew ended at age 13. And I saw Judaism for most of my life through the eyes of a 13-year-old. I had an adolescent's view of the religion. And I read a quote from Rabbi Telushkin who said, when you stop the education of a child at 13, he thinks Judaism is for children. This is one of the great tragedies, I think, of myself and lots of other people. And it's taken lots and lots of study to try and repair some of that damage that I did to myself. You know, there's a big difference between secular law and Jewish law, or halacha. Secular law is based on rights. We have a Bill of Rights that documents these. Jewish law is based on obligations, responsibilities. If I'm walking down the beach and someone is drowning, under secular law, I don't have to do anything. Under Jewish law, I have an obligation to save that person. With that heritage comes obligations. In yesterday's Torah portion, we read, do not stand idly by while your neighbor's blood is shed. You have to do something. Each Yom Kippur, we read the book of Jonah. It tells the story of a man who's given a mission by God, and he blows it off. He shirks his responsibility. And it's not until he's swallowed up by a great fish that he accepts his responsibility. I was that man. For 50 years, I was Jonah. And it wasn't until I was swallowed up by a great fish named Chabad that I accepted those responsibilities again. Chabad chewed me up, and it spit out a Jew. And I will be eternally grateful for that. The last 12 years of my life have been fantastic. I cannot wait to see what the next 12 will bring. Thank you.